Evan Craig is lucky to be here. I don't mean that in a boastful way. I mean that Evan Craig is lucky to be anywhere. At its best, cystic fibrosis is a hellish condition, and our guest this week has seen CF's worst. It's quite a tale that ends in what he says is music saving his life. Evan Craig is in the Eastlink Green Room right now, and he's our guest on East Coast Music Unplugged on Eastlink TV. Hi and welcome to East Coast Music Unplugged on Eastlink TV. I'm Darren Harvey from 89.3 K-Rock. My guest this week is Evan Craig. Evan, thanks for doing the show.
You're welcome.
I'm going to start with a question that you don't really generally ask on TV, and it's a sincere one. How are you?
I'm doing really good. Playing lots of music, and it's summer, so there's nothing really to be sad about.
All right, and there isn't, because and we're going to get to this in a minute, but music saved your life.
Absolutely.
And you mean that quite sincerely. But your health right now is good.
Yeah.
I mean, you certainly appear to be a healthy. Yes. You certainly present as a healthy young man.
Yeah, it's like I have cystic fibrosis, and it's just really a very deceiving kind of disease that different people get. Everybody gets kind of a different severity of it, and some live short lives and some live very long, and it's just about kind of keeping up with everything and just forming good habits.
We talked off air a bit about the deceitful part of cystic fibrosis, and I want to talk a little bit more about that, because it is deceitful, because I have a great friend, Tim, a mutual friend of ours, who appears infinitely healthier than most people I know. He is healthy enough, he's another musician, that he did a 12-hour singing marathon to raise funds for his son's dance troupe. I know. And there are people with cystic fibrosis who are terribly ill.
Absolutely,
and there's different, I understand there's different strains, but how can they be so different? It's hateful.
Yeah, it's really kind of a breakdown of like what kind of bacteria you're growing in your lungs, because it's CF is it's a genetic disease that you get basically lots of mucus buildup in your chest and your digestive system. So and there's some CF people that like have it all in their digestive system and don't have it in the chest. Like it's all over the place. And luckily with mine, it was just mainly in my chest, and about well, it was like 3 or 4 years ago, I moved to Edmonton to kind of be with my family for a little while, and just started developing these terrible colds, and they really wouldn't let up. So I eventually went into the hospital, and I told them, like, I had a very bad pain in my chest, and they just said, come on in. They knew kind of about what my story was, and they told me that I had about 30 days left to live. And so I went home, and that's when my chest started hurting, and I went to the hospital, and the nurse just kind of looked at me like I, was in pain, so maybe he's just looking for, something else,
Oh, wow.
So she told me to go have a hot shower while I was on oxygen. So I went, and the most I could do was take my shirt off, and after that I passed out. And then after that, I was in a coma for a month, and while they were looking for other lungs. And then it literally kind of came down to the doctor told my father I had like 24 hours left, and then it was about 8 hours after that they found lungs, and then 8 hours in surgery, and then another surgery a week after, and then I woke up just completely paralyzed, because just muscle atrophy, and so I couldn't move anything at all, and and so it was a long kind of climb back to being just like this now, and took like a good year to do physio and get back movement, even just to walk or any of that stuff.
And again, you appear like perfectly fine. I want to talk more about that later, but the reason you're here is my friend Brian, who's runs the show. He brought this article to my attention in the Coast, and it's about the most shared article I've ever seen in the Coast. It kept coming up on my Facebook feed, and friends of mine who maybe don't know somebody with CF were just moved by this article. Almost everybody I know is a musician at some level, and musicians, this article resonated with everybody. It's called "Music Kept Me Alive," and I'll have a link up on my Twitter if you want to read this article, I'll put it up so our viewers can read the article. That really is the reason you're here. Did you have any idea that article would resonate with so many people?
No. Well, I've been thinking about writing it for a while, and I mean, I'm a very, very private person, so it's hard for me to kind of share everything about my life and just have it kind of out there. But once I did it, though, it was very gratifying, because I was talking to people, like, it was weird. There's people that like were from like Africa messaging me about their lungs and stuff, and you know, you do what you can. But I mean, like when I was 16, well, I started charity work when I was 8, but then by the time I was 16, I just started putting on my own fundraisers and just organizing big kind of concerts and give all the money to the CF Foundation. And it kind of got me started on giving back at an early age, because you kind of realize what the reality of some people's situations are, and it's the least really you can do.
You started charity work at 8.
Yeah, I was the CF boy for Zellers.
Really?
It's a picture of me like in a stocking.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So we kept doing that, and then it just kind of progressed. And obviously, I play music, but yeah, and I've done probably at least 6 or 7 other just concerts, and I've probably played at half of them. The other half, I just got other bands to play, and so. Yeah, charity has been definitely a way to kind of keep my mind clear between charity and music and that stuff. But yeah, it's but the article itself was very the impact it left was very touching, and then obviously the radio interview with Sheldon McLeod after was great as well, and just trying to get the word out of CF. Not that people don't know it, but it's not really like a super well-known
People
disease.
know those two words go together, but they don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know anything about it, and I know people with it. I now know 2 people with it. I know you, and I did a fundraiser with our mutual friend Tim that I spoke of, and I can't remember the other gentleman's name, but they basically said Evan's here, and Tim's like, okay, and they kind of motioned to the front door. And Tim went out the side door, and then this other gentleman could come in, because they can't be together.
Yeah.
People don't know that, right?
No, there's a bacteria, I believe it's called something like cepacia or something like that, and certain CF people have it and certain people don't. I don't have it, but people that do, it's kind of like the worst bacteria you can have. So like sharing or being with another CF people or a person is very kind of dangerous. But I mean, when I was a kid, they didn't really know that. So there was a thing called Camp Getty. And it was literally all of the CF patients doing physio in the rooms together before they knew. God. I was like 8.
Did not know that.
Yeah.
Well, in preparing for this interview, I was talking to Brian about this, Brian Lynch, and he said, you know, one of the nice things about getting Evan on the show and talking about this terrible disease is there's no camp for kids.
No.
There isn't. Like, not only is there not a camp, but you're encouraged to not be with each other.
Yeah. It's good now, because like at least with the internet and stuff, like you can talk to people online, and there's a lot of my friends that are either waiting to get a lung transplant or people that have had one, or everywhere is in between. The article really kind of helps for people to kind of like come to me more than seeking other people out to help.
And social media must really change that, because you can have a community of people who are very close who've never met.
Exactly, yeah.
That's got to be super helpful. And I again see you as a bit of a champion of that, because you are the guy that started at 8 and then started doing his own thing at 16. You're an organizer, so I suspect, I'm not surprised that people are reaching out from other continents to talk to you.
I was.
That's pretty amazing, man. That's fantastic. Okay, we've got a lot more ground to cover, so there's more coming. You're watching East Coast Music Unplugged on Eastlink TV. Evan Craig is my guest, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to East Coast Music Unplugged on Eastlink TV. I'm Darren Harvey, and my guest is Evan Craig. Evan, we talked about this article that you wrote for The Coast. In that article, you said that your first memories are a mix of cystic fibrosis and He-Man. Tell me about your childhood. You were diagnosed at 4, right?
No, actually, I was diagnosed at birth, and then just like it was weird because like the first 5 or 10 years of your life, you kind of know that you have something, but you're not really sure, how severe it is because you're not feeling it yet, sort of thing. So, so when I was young, I would always look on like encyclopedias or something and look at the average age of CF people, and usually it was like around 31. So it was like, for my life, it was just a lot of kind of keeping that number in the back of my head, and then the ironic part of it is that I had my surgery 2 days after my birthday, where I turned 32. I was supposed to die on my birthday, actually, which was very strange.
Yeah, it is very strange. Well, let me talk about that, because you were a very young man, as you mentioned in the first segment, and you were told you had a month to live. How does a young man deal? Or have you been sort of preparing for that?
Well, I mean, I have one saying, and it's strange what you can get used to. And it's just kind of that way. Like once you kind of like, when I first saw one of my friends pass away when I was 16, and it was just obviously left a very big impression and got me towards charity work. But yeah, it's I don't know. It's just something that kind of follows you around, I guess, and you kind of got to get used to it. So
that's amazing.
But it was strange too, because it was before kind of the internet was a big thing. So I'd be going to the IWK in Halifax, but my family lived about like an hour and a half away. And back in like the 90s, that was big, like there were still long distance plans.
Sure.
So it was kind of like isolating in some ways, but it was very strange to kind of come back to school and stuff like that, and trying to be like, into all that stuff, and you're just like, it doesn't really matter.
No, it puts things in perspective, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of perspective, let's talk about organ donation. Mm-hmm. I think it's an incredibly easy thing to do. You check a box on your license, and when you're done with this body, somebody else can benefit from it.
Yep. And the thing is, too, is that you don't actually, people don't realize, like, because some people, I've met a lot of people that don't want to do the organ donations strictly because they have a license and they'd have to get it reprinted in like $80. But you can go into the DMV and just tell them, and they'll do it in their computer system. So it's like you don't even have to, shell out $100 or whatever if that's too much.
And the other thing, I know this from some stuff that I have lived, is tell your partner, tell your family that you want to do this, because if anybody says no, it can get stopped. Even though it's all your wishes, if somebody wants to step in and say, no, we definitely need to have a burial and we definitely need to have the body, they just won't do it.
Well, it seems to be more the way of the future between like, that or stem cell research or any of those, or even just technology in general. Like they have a computer now that they put a chip inside someone's brain, and it rids them of Parkinson's, like, and it's just like brand new. Like if you keep up to all the medical stuff, but
apparently you do.
Yeah, apparently, yeah. And it's just strange now because they've really kind of realized now that to solve some of these diseases doesn't necessarily mean having a cure, but it means like maybe technology will take over someone that's a quadriplegic, or like relying more on computers than a natural cure.
Well, it's the next wave, right? It's going to be where medicine goes. It's where medicine is gone.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We'll all be in CRISPRs.
Shifting gears, but staying a little dark, tell me about the bike accident.
Oh, yeah, that too. Well, when I was 14, I was just driving my bike, and I got sideswiped by a truck at like full speed, and I broke my leg, my arms, my foot, my hand. And I hit my head. I wasn't wearing a helmet, so I was bleeding out of my ears, and I had to go in a coma again for 2 days. And then I woke up, and then my leg had already been surgically put back together. And then again, it was like learning how to walk again, and the same sort of thing. So it was, in a weird way, it kind of made me more thick-skinned to deal with the future things that I had no idea about yet.
Wow.
It's well, I mean, it's funny because I always tell people, because they always seem to say that, like, that you're so amazing for what you did or whatever. And it's really like the families and stuff like that help. That really, 'cause some people don't have families, and it's kind of like feel kind of guilty taking all the, because I was really just in a coma for a month. It wasn't like I was going through something. It was kind of like, I guess after I woke up.
You know, that's a really good observation because you weren't going through anything. Your family was.
Yeah, exactly.
And they were going through hell.
Yeah, people flew from the East Coast to Edmonton. They moved me out of my condo. They did everything because they were just 100% sure that I wasn't going to make it. So, yeah, so it was pretty wild.
Okay, let's talk about your family on a lighter note. I understand your dad was your first musical influence.
Absolutely, yeah. When I was a kid, he'd have a practice going in the basement. And
He's a musician as well.
Oh yeah. And he sings and plays guitar, and it was funny because he'd always be playing CCR songs. And so like I remember like going to the grocery stores and stuff when I was really young, and they'd have like a CCR song playing. I'd be like walking around and be like, "That's my dad."
Nice.
that's him.
Of course.
I had no idea. That was completely off.
Was music saving the 14-year-old bike accident victim as well? Were you heavy into it at that point?
I think so. Well, yeah. Like I was definitely like I remember listening to like the Jackson 5 when I was a kid, and then just moving on to like kind of like the Seattle scene of grunge, and then going kind of backwards into like Neil Young, and kind of I went backwards instead of forwards. So I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
That's usually how it works. It's been my experience that you're listening to what's on the radio, and then you really like something, and you know, for me it was like listening to something on the radio, buying the cassette.
Yep.
That's where I was, and then you read the liner notes and realize that they're covering somebody else, so you look into that record and you see who they're covering, and you go back. And
yeah, it's great. It's like a little like what do they call it? The YouTube foxhole or hole or whatever.
There is a you can do it on YouTube so well. I love doing that on YouTube because someone will send me a song.
Just full concerts.
Yeah. Yes. We need to start doing that for each other. We'll send each other videos and just see where the wormhole takes us.
Yeah. Right now, mine are Queens of the Stone Age and Them Crooked Vultures.
Okay, mine is right now. It's Joe Bonamassa.
Oh, okay.
And driving to the studio today, me and Rob Lepper, who is on camera today, we were talking about Joe Bonamassa concerts that are on there. You need to look into Joe Bonamassa.
Put that in my notepad.
Do it. I'll send you the note later. It was your dad that also encouraged you to write your own stuff, right?
Yeah. When I learned, like, he gave me a few lessons when I was 14, and by that point, I think he played in so many cover bands. It kind of like, at his age, he was just like, just write your own stuff, because then, you know, it might come across a little bit better. And I wasn't really into like singing other people's songs, because it was just like, it's just like a version that's like 20% not as good. So we'd always be like on, with Speedy Recovery, my band, we've never played covers or any of that stuff, but not to say that it's a bad thing.
No, not at all. I understand, but it's not what you want to do.
Yeah, it's kind of, I mean, like, I just write songs. I like performing them. That's pretty much it.
Okay, let's drop some names of who saved your life. I know Dr. Eddie Vedder is in there. Doctors Plant and Page from Led Zeppelin. Who else?
Well, Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age. Listened to all of his stuff. Or Iggy Pop. John Frusciante. Like, lots of really good artists, I think.
Yeah. Iggy Pop, though. Come on.
Yeah, his last record's amazing.
Okay, before we run out of time, I just want to ask you this. Between the bike accident and CF, you're a delight. How do you stay so positive? How are you just like you came skipping in here, and we got a song coming up with you and Zoe, and it just everybody happy.
Yeah, it's I mean, like, you kind of have to take a look at the dark side to enjoy the light, I think, and I've definitely had enough dark sides to like when you're just out and about, it's twice as good. So, and if I ever have a troubled time, like trying to think of reasons to be happy or anything, or just like go to the ocean, or like just do something that's just totally on your own sort of thing, which helps me anyway.
Well, you told me off air that you've watched the show a number of times, so you know what's going to happen now. I'm going to hit you with a quick 6, and you're going to answer off the top of your head, but you may have already thought about this, so let's do it. Whether it's on your phone or an old school turntable, however you listen to music, what are some of your most listened to artists right now?
Listen to artists? Again, be like Them Crooked Vultures, or I was into Ray Charles for a little bit lately, and just kind of like, once again, just kind of moving back instead of forward, just because like the music just sounds so much more clear. All
right, favorite Canadian artist, favorite Atlantic Canadian artist?
Atlantic would be Matt Mays for sure. He's a good friend, and in Canada, I met Mike Myers once. He was really nice.
That's fun.
Yeah, and
that's
his
the
brother.
first time that answer's happened.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Where is your happy place?
Behind a guitar and a mic. I don't know.
That could answer the next question quite nicely. What is your favorite inanimate object?
Oh, definitely my acoustic guitar. Yeah.
Okay, that was going. If Evan Craig was not a musician, he'd be a.
I really wanted to be. I remember when I was like in grade 6, I wanted to be a National Geographic photographer, or like a newscaster. For some reason, that because I'm really like into politics and stuff like that, so it was a natural kind of step for me.
Okay, before we run out of time,
Yep.
if heaven exists, what music is playing when you walk through the pearly gates?
Stairway to Heaven.
That is a very good answer, and I don't think in 5 seasons anyone's ever said it.
Really?
I swear, that was fantastic. Thank you. Let's get a song out of you.
Thank you very
Stick
much.
around, a song from Evan Craig next on East Coast Music Unplugged here on Eastlink TV. And now a song from Evan Craig. This is The Sun.
Hey, what do you know? We like think the same, but we never really show it on our way back home. How could you see that you and I will never permanently agree on our way back home? Whether you've been here before, whether you've seen me here rocking these roads, if you think this just move on. I've seen you before and I know and I think you're great. I think in the middle all day, we're making our way to the sun. Where do you go when you got someone to lie to, to lie to? Where do you go when you got someone to cry to, to cry to, to cry to? What do you want to do? Oh girl, it's a world, let's follow through on our way to the sun. Hey, what do you want to do? Oh girl, it's a world, I'll follow you on our way to the sun.
Evan Craig, thank you so much. And Zoe, that was great. Thank you guys so much. And thanks for watching East Coast Music Unplugged on Eastlink TV. We'll see you next week.
To cry to. What do you want to do? Oh girl, it's a world, let's follow through on our way to the sun. Hey, what do you want to do? Oh girl, it's a world